initiates, so often it cuts off at the beginning of the live stream, but then when I say that, it doesn't. So, but I do know I said rotation information initiates on the last live stream or two, and it didn't, and it did cut off. So, with that being said, I just want to pop on here today. So I spent the last few days making you guys a version of like the free compatibility report without birth times at Cafe Astrology. So you can now use on divinetimingdatabase.com/stars, and the link is at the bottom in the description. So if you go into the description at the top, there's the dating app. That's the matchmaking astrology dating app, and single and available, or you're just frustrated with all of your options, definitely go and submit to that. You'll be grandfathered in for the next, I think it's about 24 hours now, from any fees or anything. But I did create a couple more free tools for you guys the past few days. So one is you can go right now and see the sky universal time. Also, I was going to see if some of you could do me a favor. I'm on the West Coast in the United States, but if any of you are on the East Coast or you're in another country, because I know a lot of my clients and viewers are, if you could go to click that same link. It's or you can go to divinetimingdatabase.com, but in the menu, I believe it's divinetimingdatabase.com/stars, which is where you can run the free compatibility report without birth times. Up in the top, it says the sky near you. So click that, and if you can write in the comments of this video what it says, because for me, I'm -8 time, I believe right now, Pacific Standard Time, because of daylight savings, and then for most of the year, it's -7 time, or vice versa. So if you and you're like in Australia or Europe, hopefully it's going to give you, because for me it says -6, which is Denver time. So I'm trying to get it set. And so I need somebody's help to tell me, if you're running it in England, because I know one of my subscribers and one of you that submitted to the database is in England. The UK, if you could, I don't know if that's England, but the UK, sorry, geography is not my best subject. Go to divinetimingdatabase.com/stars, and then in the menu click the sky near you, and then come back on this video and comment if it says -6 for the, I'll say it in blue, like the time zone that it's giving you, because that way it'll help me kind of go in and fix it, because we ultimately want it to be the exact time zone that you're in. And actually, when I initially tried to make that work, it didn't work at all. But there's also the sky right now, which will tell you universal time. So like pretty much when I looked at like other software, all the planets were the exact same, some were within like a few minutes. So if you look at any chart, and some of you may or may not know this, you're looking at the degree the planet's at. So like right now, if Neptune's somewhere around like 27 degrees Pisces, it might say and 44 minutes. And I actually need to research exactly what the minutes mean, because they don't equate to actual minutes, okay? Because if I'm looking at universal time, which is 0 time, it'll say like Neptune, which is a very slow moving planet. Let's say, for example, I know he's somewhere in late degrees Pisces right now. It's going to take him a couple more, I think another 2 years to get through there. It'll say like 27 degrees 44 minutes, but then if I go back -7 hours to my time zone, it'll say the same thing, 27 degrees 44 minutes, and that's accurate. I did verify that. So minutes doesn't actually equate to minutes when it comes to astrology. So I need to go in and research what exactly those minutes mean mathematically, and then we'll make a video about it, because it's something, my mind's always going on so many different things, and it's like, okay, I need to go down that rabbit hole. So definitely, if you're in another country, go to divinetimingdatabase.com/stars. There's a free tool there for you. You can run any birth dates without the birth times, or the birthplaces. It's just based on 0 longitude, latitude, which is what the free Cafe compatibility report does on Cafe. The difference is you'll have my descriptions, and they call them interpretations. And I'm busy writing those for you guys and updating them. Some of them need to be edited because I was writing them so fast, like a year ago. But anyways, so, and another thing is I did run a chart of a married couple that has been married for like 50 years. I did see Mars square Neptune and Mars square Saturn, which was kind of like discombobulating for me. But I told you guys that I will always be transparent with you. So, when you come to me as a client, if we're looking at your exes, and you're like, well, I was with my ex for 5 years, but that didn't work out, then I often am like, oh, okay, well, you two had Mars square Saturn, that's why. But now I'm seeing this Mars opposition and square Saturn in longer couples. Now, to her credit, Jules Mayberry did say like hard Saturn contacts can work. because they give commitment and obligation. I said that is very true, especially with Venus, but not so much with Mars, not that I see. And, there's a difference between the values of the older generations that were married for, 50 or 75 years versus like this younger generation. We just have so many options that and the options aren't like, for some of us, it's like, okay, if we're having this Mars square Saturn friction, we're less apt to put up with it, because our values aren't the same. It's like we can just go look for somebody new, right? There's plenty of fish in the sea, but but at the same time, so that's why I always encourage all my clients to follow their own hearts. Like I'll tell them, like, you have really bad synastry here, but if this is your person and you feel that, then you might just have to write it out for whatever karmic lesson. Now, I don't always say that, but that's kind of what I mean. But the other thing about it is that, yeah, basically it could be just we have less patience for it now, but it also, because there are all these other external forces that interfere, it's not like you just marry the girl down the street and you settle in and you can afford a mortgage like you used to be able to. There's more life stressors, right? And there's more temptation and there's more things like that. So I think that's another reason, aside from values, that, Mars squares don't tend to work out as long. But I am finding, just like Andrew, he's Mars square Mars, married 25 years. I am seeing more Mars square Mars square Saturn in long-term couples, but it's not a fun energy. And like the more of them you have, like if you have Saturn square Venus, which can work actually pretty well, but can be a little stifling, and you have Mars square Mars, and so once you have like 2 or 3 of these, kind of like the yellow flags, then it's definitely not the ideal relationship for you to be in. So again, we're not going to be matching you with anyone like that on the Astrology Dating App, which is moonmatch.love. If you want to go check it out, that's divinetimingdatabase.com. Quick way for you to get there. But divinetimingdatabase.org, I'm sorry, .org is where we're doing the work to match people and help the global divorce rate. But .com is where you can create your own database, run your transits like that, but .com/stars, you can now go and run without the birth times in places. So you can get a quick, now that's not going to be as accurate as if you create a database. And I made menus for you guys yesterday, so you can like quickly go up and click free private database if you go to .com/stars, or you can just go to divinetimingdatabase.com. But the best way to do it is to create your own database. Do be sure to remember your username and password, because there's something up with, like, there's some issue with the emails, and the emails ironically are like the hardest thing on websites. So, if you're having trouble getting into your database, because I know 1 or 2 of you have, email divinetimingdatabase@gmail.com. That's the admin address to get help with that. But that's the easiest way, because once you put your birth chart information, like your birth time information in there, you can just run your ID number. You can run your transits. You can run Synastry. It's just click, click. It's so easy. All you have to do is log into it. So, and it pulls up a PDF and chart. It's amazing. But I use the tool on Free Cafe Astrology. Cafe Astrology. I use that tool all the time for my clients when I'm doing quick mini order, because I can just quickly pull up just the fundamental aspects, like they have Saturn square Pluto and things like that. So I just created my own tool for that. And I wanted to put the moon estimates in there, but you would still need the location. So I think I'll just still use the main database for things like that. But definitely, basically all I'm doing now is just finishing writing the descriptions and cleaning and editing them and everything like that. But I like it right now because it's the same thing I do on Free Cafe Astrology Compatibility. I go in and I skim, like, is Saturn square Pluto here? Is Mars square Saturn here? But on divinetimingdatabase.com/stars, it literally is labeled like deal breaker divorce aspect. So for those of you that don't have my brain, that don't know, like, Saturn square Pluto is going to be that, it's going to tell you right there, divorce, deal breaker divorce aspect, So it's an amazing tool. It took me about 2 or 3 days. My friend's like, why did it take you so long? You could have done that in hours. I'm like, you didn't see the back end of it. To get it all set to be 0 time and 0 longitude, like the Cafe Astrology report, the Free Cafe, whatever. So basically I built it so that I won't be referring you guys to Cafe anymore. I'll be referring you to divinetimingdatabase.com/stars. And the link is in the description at the bottom, and I'll pin it in the comments. It'll be at the bottom of all the links. So with that being said, once again, if you want to get grandfathered in from chat membership fees, definitely submit to divinetimingdatabase.org. Again, you can get there by going to moonmatch.love quickly in your browser. There's also an Android app you can download if you want to use it that way. And I just wanted to hop on here and tell you guys about that tool. Maybe sometime in the next week or so, I'll get on the computer and live stream to you guys and show you how it works, because I like to do that sometimes just to give you, because I'm a tax learner, so I have to see it done sometimes in order for me to really grasp it quickly. Otherwise, it's kind of abstract to me. Like if somebody's just telling me, like I'm telling you right now, I don't quite get it. You know, they might have to tell me like 20 times and I'm, oh, okay, I understand, you know. So I would like to give you guys a visual, you know, and then there's visual learners as well. So tactile can go right along with visual. But for me, it's like if I see you do it one time, I'll remember how to do it forever, you know. So with that being said, definitely go check it out, you guys. It's free. It's another free tool. If you don't want to go create a database, a private database, you know, and enter all the birth time and place info, which really you should do, because you can go run your transits quickly and everything. Now, you can always order a report from me on rotation411.com, and I can, you know, thoroughly pull up your birth chart in my like deeper software. And then the cool thing about the compatibility reports that I run, you know, if you order from me, not only are you going to get me explaining it to you for like an hour or so in depth, you know, what I see there, and going through, you know, like if I do your birth chart reading, I go through each house, each planet, what it means for you, you know, each aspect. But the other cool thing about it is that and I'm eventually going to get around to adding this into the free database, but I'll run also a Juno. So when it comes to romance compatibility, like if you order a Synastry report from me with the birth times, I really get into Juno, and I need also to put that on my list of videos to make for you guys. Juno and Jupiter, that video for a while. And I know I've mentioned it in videos, but we'll go through it and just have its own video. Juno and Jupiter in marriage, because and so that was something I kind of been touching on about, like the bigger picture and how astrologists can find different things by looking at different things. So that's what the astrology programmer I was working with had said, like, we don't need asteroids because you can see it all, you know, like for me in the aspects, or for other people in, you know, a lot of older astrologists just go by the signs. You know, the signs can just tell you a lot what sign something is in. So that's another thing I kind of want to touch on is, if you're using that universal divinetimingdatabase.com/stars, or even Cafe Astrology without the birth times, you do need to be mindful, because it might tell you that you have like Mars square Mars, but in reality, and I mentioned this before, it's happening in Aries and Aries and Leo, and it's just a high degree and a low degree, and it's saying it's a square, but it's really friendly signs. So, and also, for example, like my ex-husband, I noticed this because I ran me and him real quick, because I just run different people to see what descriptions I need to kind of edit and revise, and make sure everything's accurate and everything with charts that I know well. And it was saying that his Venus in 0 degrees Capricorn, which, because it pushed out universal time, but his Venus is actually like, it must be like 29 degrees Sagittarius. So be mindful that when you're running these without the birth times, that it's not exact. Okay, it's kind of like CoStar. It's like if you're a cusp baby. So I ran my friend on there, and she, you know, CoStar will tell her she's 0 degrees Cancer Sun. This will also say that. But if you go and you actually make a free database and you enter your birthplace and time, even your birthplace will help in there, because if you don't have your birth time or the person's birth time in the database, like the free private database part, which is divinetimingdatabase.com, you can still put a 12 p.m. estimated birth time, and you'll have your place. Now, the reason I didn't include the places on the ones without birth times is because you would have to go find your longitude and latitude. It's just too tedious. So it's easier to just go register, make a database. I know a lot of you have done it. I was in the back end the other day, and I think there's like 100 of you at least in there now. Now, do note, you know, if your ID number is 200, those ID numbers are not correlating with the dating app. That is also part of the database, but it's a different part. It's not the same. They're not the same ID numbers. I don't even know if those actually have ID numbers. When you sign up for the dating app, divinetimingdatabase.org or moonmatch.love, I'll just say it again, those are not the same ID numbers. So there's like a couple thousand people in there. It's not the same ID numbers as those of you using the free private database. Just something to note there. But yeah, just go ahead and if you don't know your birth time or you have an approximate one, you're going to be a lot better off making the database, making your own free private database. And so, like, for example, I think he was born at like 2:22 p.m. or a.m. I always mix it up, and I should have saved it better when I actually got the time from him. I've gotten better and better at that. But so it's like, even if he put a noon birth time, most likely his Venus is still going to be showing in with his birthplace, which is San Francisco, which, you know, so when you're running without the birthplaces and times on /stars or even Cafe, you're getting a null island longitude and latitude, which is like the void of the world, right? And so to even just put San Francisco in there at noon is probably going to knock his Venus back into Sagittarius, which is actually where it is, because his second and his third wife are both, their birthdays are the same. And I had told him this, and that's when he found the third wife, because their Venus sits right on, their sun sits right on his Venus, and Venus is a man's ideal partner. And I am his first wife. I'm an Aries. My sun is in, I think if his is like a 28 degree, my sun is in like a slightly wide trine. It might even be a tighter trine, but it's in like a 5 to 8 degree trine to his Venus in Sagittarius. So, you know, first, second, and third wives all align very tightly with his Venus. Now, some men are going to date more based on Venus, which is a little more superficial, because Venus is the girlfriend. She's the ideal type of woman that you want. And some men are going to be more emotionally based, probably more like a water sign, like a Cancer or Pisces, and they're most likely going to date more based on their moon, you know, which is good. It's healthy. So a lot of you that have like like me, I have strong masculine, like Libra and Aries sun and ascendant, and so I attract a lot of masculine men, like a masculine sun moon. I was realizing that most of the men that I've dated in my hometown, almost all of them masculine moons. That's probably why it hasn't worked out, because I have a feminine moon, and that's my moon compatibility theory. But when I was in LA, I do feel like I found more feminine moons. I also attract a lot of Cancer moons. That's who I married originally. So anyways, I'm going on and on, but the point of the matter is, for you women, it's going to be Jupiter and Mars that you're drawn to the most. What's drawn to you is going to be men coming after your Venus and your moon if they're emotionally balanced. So I do tell some clients, like, you know, you're dating women based on, you know, you're going after women based on your sun sign, and that's why none of them are working with your moon, kind of, if they're in opposite polarities. Let's see. So some people inherently are going to know better, you know, what to gravitate towards, but it really depends, because some of us are parental figures. We had, you know, if their moons are feminine and our moons are feminine, we had like real emotional nourishment. If their moons are masculine, we didn't have that. So we're not going to gravitate necessarily towards the right energies. Okay, but I'm trying to, okay, there's one little other thing I was going to touch on. It was Juno and Jupiter right before that, and I kind of segued back to something else. This is just a real quick little rant for you guys to start the week out. Yeah, I definitely think it's Monday now, you guys, so maybe this week we could get into Juno and Jupiter. Oh, so Jupiter and Mars for women. Mars is your bad boy type, but it's also what you're physically attracted to. So for me, I know, like, when I date guys where my Mars is, or even my sun is trine or sextile their sun or Mars, that's a really great energy. And Jupiter represents the spouse in a woman's chart. So I told you guys, a lot of times when I'm seeing, you know, couples that are married forever, they're married to their Jupiter sign, the woman, the man's sun. So that was the other thing about, even though I am seeing like Mars square Saturn and Neptune and Mars in longer marriages, which I told you guys I wasn't seeing a lot of, and I like to be transparent. I told you guys, if I find things that refute what I said, of course, that's why all the astrologists say nothing's set in stone. Still, these couples don't seem as happy or as sure about each other, because I do think certainty is very important in long-term relationships. You know, they might have other interests and things, where the couples that come to me that have beautiful synastry, that don't have these kind of Mars squares, are just very happy and content couples, okay? Yes, they're, if even moon compatibility, they're still going to have their issues, but they're just couples that, like, they don't doubt, they don't question, they're not threatening to get a divorce every other day, okay, when they don't have those kind of Mars squares. Or not every other day, but you know what I mean? They're not having big falling outs or drama. And I was thinking about this too. So in the couples that have like Mars square Saturn that are married forever, they have a lot of health issues, like Mars squares. So even if they out and their values are that, they're still going to have a lot of health issues because statistically, when I studied sociology, marriage, especially for men are happier when they're married, and just statistically, and they have better health and they live longer lives. So for women, they actually say they're not as happy, but I think this still does correlate with like better health and a longer life, maybe because of stability. But they're actually not as happy. Women are actually happier when they're kind of content on their own, doing their own thing. But a lot of women, we're not content on our own because we're looking for that partner. So, you know, and usually when we do become content on our own is when we attract a partner. But so what I'm trying to say is when you have like these Mars squares and you do stick it out for years and years, it's grating on your health. Just like a narcissistic relationship can really grate on people's health and nervous system. So it's still not recommended. I'm still not going to match you guys with these people. But if you're already in it and you've been in it for 20 years and you just really love the person, like I say, I always encourage you all to follow your own hearts. If you built a whole foundation and everything, I'm not speaking ill on you. I'm just saying that if you're free and single, why would you want to look for something like that? Because the other thing that I see in these kind of Mars squares and long-term couples, aside from health issues probably being worse than the couples that don't have them, you know, is a lot of drama and conflict, and the children, like generational curses. Saturn is karma. So the children of these people, for the most part, they're going to have tougher relationships with their children, or their children are going to have a little bit, like if your parents have these malefic aspects with you or with each other, whether they ended up divorcing or not, you know, the divorce can be hard on you, but also even if they stick it out for the sake of the foundation and the children, it's still like the fighting that they do and the tension that they have. It does make, it's sort of like statistically, like they'll say like single parent households, the kids don't have as better odds. Now, it doesn't mean your kid can't, you know, graduate from Harvard if you're a single mother. It just means that it's going to be a lot harder for them. It's a lot less likely statistically. So of course you would want to give them the best odds, right, in life if you can, right? But love kind of and emotions and things can trump a lot. So we're willing to put up with a lot, and you know, Saturn has to deal with sacrifice. So if we get caught up in a Saturn square Mars type of thing, we might make those sacrifices, you know, and fight for it like Mars. But again, your kids like might resent you more, or there might be like, you know, more drama that happened throughout their life, which might make their relationships harder. So if you're like in your 20s or 30s still, or even in your 40s or 50s, and you're just single and available, it really is the time to get into divinetimingdatabase.org, because you could meet someone that you don't have any of these with. And if you go out in the dating pool, and I know because my clients come to me and I experience it myself, you're much more likely to run into these kinds of things, you know, so why not, you know, sort of like instead of law of averages and getting out there and dating 200 people and speed dating, you know, because I tell people it's law of averages. So I had a client come to me and she's pretty young. She's 20 the other day. And she had been through 2 bad relationships and a friendship that she didn't really know what was going on with. And she's like, am I never destined to find love? And I'm like, first of all, girl, you haven't even had your second Jupiter return, your Saturn return yet. But I know it's hard. It feels like forever, especially if you're meant to be married, like on your, you know, second Jupiter return or something that's 36. Like even my clients that are 32, I tell them, oh, it's probably going to be around when you're 36. They feel like that's the end of the world. Now, even for me, I had you know, even for those of you that have like your 36 second Jupiter return, that might be sort of the start of the 12-year phase. So you might not actually, and you'll see this too. You'll look at people like that finally got married in their late 30s and it finally worked for them, or they finally got married after their Saturn return when they were 29. Finally had a good relationship, but they had rocky ones in the early 20s, you know, which culture and other, you know, external forces and like drinking, people tend to drink more in their early 20s if, you know, if they're not totally abstinent from that. So, you know, that can create a lot of other reasons externally why that might be, where people kind of calm down maybe in their 30s and it's a little easier. But I'm just saying that, you know, it's time, right? We've been talking a lot about that lately, and I should make a note of that too. Let's do like a video about time and existentialism and divine timing, because I know I can't think of, I don't want to say your name wrong right now. I think it's Luciano. You know, she was asking me a lot about divine timing and everything, because she's into music, and music has a lot to do with rhythm and all of that. So that's kind of beautiful. And that we could even take us into like, maybe we could go over like the Hermetic principles of it, of like time and cause and effect and all of that. But With that being said, I'm sure you guys could Google that too or look up other YouTube videos on it, but I guess I could give you my take or sort of my rant on it because I feel like I kind of bridge the gap between like the serious knowledge and sort of, I'm kind of like your friend chatting with you about it in a way, coming to new conclusions. So with that being said, yeah, if you're not already in a relationship where you have tough Mars squares, I definitely don't recommend that you get in one. So, law of averages. Law of averages is you could go and you could date a bunch of people. Oh, and so she was all discouraged. And I looked at, and, she had Mars square Jupiter with both X's. So it's like, in that I've never seen Mars square Jupiter yet, but I have seen Mars opposition Jupiter in long marriages, but they're usually not doing very well, and they usually have quite a rocky history. So, if you want stability, I don't recommend it. So, law of averages, you could go out there and you could keep hitting these things and thinking something's wrong with you, or thinking you're never going to find love. Because she's only 20 and feeling that way. Imagine when she's 30 and gone through, another 50 of those. I mean, not, you know what I mean? It's just so of just people not being the one, and going on a date and he's kind of a jerk, and then you're discouraged by that. It doesn't have to be that she has 50 relationships, right? But I'm just saying, 50 encounters with somebody that's not compatible with her. And then she's thinking it's her and her self-esteem, but really it's just not the right people. So you could either do that, or you could just go in the database. You could tell people about the database, divinetimingdatabase.org. I'll say it one more time, moonmatch.love to get there quicker. And just start telling people, because I told you guys, it's like you might enter and 5 of your friends might enter, but then, one of your friends might tell their cousin, and right, it's because word of mouth spreads the quickest. And then you've never met their cousin, and next thing you know, you two have the best synastry, and you've been circling around each other in the same 1 mile radius your whole lives, and may never have even actually gotten together, Aries rising, Scorpio sun, and Aquarius moon. So I feel cursed, lol. Mars, Pluto, and Saturn planets don't seem suitable for marriage. Well, if the Mars, Pluto, and Saturn planets are like happening in a square, maybe, but you're not cursed. But what it is you might like you're the issue is going to be, so you'll know better than I do, so you can answer this. You're either going to be attracting a lot of masculine energy or a lot of feminine energy. So if you're attracting a lot, like with that, those placements, if you're attracting like a bunch of water signs like Pisces, and they're like, triple water, and so then your Aquarius moon's not really going to have, it's just going to feel kind of detached from it. It's going to be like, okay, I like your personality. I understand your emotions, but I don't know. I kind of want to do my own thing because I'm an Aries rising. And as an Aquarius moon, like, you just don't really interest me because you're all emotional all the time. And, I'm thinking about bigger and grander things, So, or it could be the opposite where you're attracting a lot of masculine energy. But you might be attracting men with feminine moons to your Scorpio sun. So then your moon is going to be, or your sun is going to be too hot on their moon. And then their moon's not going to be compatible with your moon. And, Aquarius moon's really going to do the best with an air moon. Fire would work too, especially with the Aries rising. But, Aries risings tend to attract Aries suns a bit too. Sort of a magnetic pole. So I don't know. Tell me, I'm curious, do you tend to attract more feminine or masculine suns? And if you might know if you're what kind of moons you're attracting. But I would just say with such a dominant feminine sun, you're probably attracting a lot of feminine energy, and it's not your adventurous Aries rising is kind of like stifled by that, because you kind of want someone you could like, that's quick, that you can be on the go with, that's adventurous, that's forward thinking. And then with your Aquarius moon, you're just going to feel kind of like you're probably smarter than them, and that they are way too emotionally motivated. And, it's not like you have a Pisces sun. So even your Scorpio sun might tend to kind of feel that way, like that they're, that they don't have any control over their emotions. That would be my guess on what's happening there with you. But again, if you ever want me to actually go over your birth chart and tell you like what would be most romantically compatible with you, rotation411.com is where all my readings are. I just kind of changed the menu yesterday, so all the readings are underneath. Is Aries sun. Yeah, I told you, Aries rising, you attract Aries sun. My high school sweetheart, I'm an Aries sun. He was Aries rising. And moon, very masculine, but lost interest when it got hard. Oh, interesting. Well, he does have an Aries moon, so your moons are sextile to a certain degree. So I would be more curious than what the aspects were. So if you're saying Mars, Pluto, and Saturn, did you have hard aspect Mars, Pluto, and Saturn to his Mars, Pluto, or Saturn? Because even if your moons are compatible, right? If you have malefic aspects, it's like, example, Aries go best probably with Leos, right? But I could date 5 Leos and I could have Mars square Jupiter with 4 of them, and I could write off Leos and be like, oh, I love Leos, but it doesn't work with Leos. But in reality, I had Mars square Pluto with those 4. That's a flingy energy. Meet the 5th Leo, won't give them the time of day because I'm done with Leos, because that's the problem with astrology, that a lot of people that don't believe in astrology try to say like, oh, you guys can't be basing it off that because you can't judge people like that. And that is sort of a bias. You shouldn't be doing that. You shouldn't be going, oh, I don't like Leos. I mean, if you're frustrated with Leos, like sometimes I get frustrated with Taurus because I have a Virgo moon, so I attract a lot of Tauruses sometimes. Like my high school sweetheart with the Aries rising was a Taurus sun. I believe his sun, he was May 10th, so his sun was like semi-sextile my sun almost exactly. So definitely, even when the moons are compatible and it has all the potential in the world, check those malefics. So Avis, I don't know if you were here for it, and I don't know if you've ever used free cafe compatibility, but I just created one for you guys. It's called divinetimingdatabase.com/stars. So you could just, it's the links in the bottom in the description. You could go run really quick and see if it pops up deal breaker or divorce aspects in there. Square his Scorpio Pluto, and my south node was close to his sun. Well, south node to sun is good. It could, that's a soulmate contact. It could make him feel a little held back, which could be why he took off, to explore life. But moon square Pluto isn't going to break you. So it would have to be like a Mars, Pluto square Mars, Mars square Pluto, Mars square Saturn, Venus square Uranus. So that's the thing I got. I've got pretty much all the deal breaker and divorce aspects in the database now. So again, if you just go in there and quickly run, it'll pull up for you. It'll flag, like, we could try to figure it out right now, but if you just go to divinetimingdatabase.com/stars and you type in your birthday and his birthday without the birth times, again, it might be a little off without the birth times about where the planets sit. Most of them are pretty accurate. It'll flag right there for you. Like, it'll show. You just scroll down and it'll say deal breaker divorce aspect. So if you see one of those in there, that's probably why it didn't work. But if you do have, since you have all your birth information, because you know your rising and everything, then I would definitely just make it a private database, because then even if you don't have his birth time, you can put noon and you can put his birthplace, so it's going to be more accurate. And you can do that under divinetimingdatabase.com. I am Gemini Sun, Scorpio rising, Moon Sagittarius, and Venus in Aries. He's Libra Sun. So I basically just want to know, Gemini Sun, Libra Sun, that's a trine. Venus and Scorpio. We would need to know his moon to know if you're compatible or not. And then we would need to know the aspects. So, yeah. So that's where you could go to divinetimingdatabase.com/stars. Again, the link is the bottom one in the description, and I'll pin it in the comments in the playback, and it'll tell you the way that I describe them. And I don't have all the good ones in there yet. There are a few good, like the really good ones, like Venus conjunct Mars and everything. All the descriptions are in there. Again, there are some typos in there because I was typing it at the speed of light like a year ago, but I actually am finally to the place now. I'm gonna go make you guys a table today, because the aspects are all kind of listed. I'm making it like a table to make it easier on the eyes, and then I'm gonna keep writing. But right now, all the good ones and all the really bad ones, like most important ones that I'm looking at, that when I'm looking at your guys' chart, and I almost don't even want to write in the descriptions of sort of the median ones, because I want it to catch your eye when you see deal breaker or divorce aspect. I want it to catch your eye when it says true love bliss on there, right? And so if I've got all the other ones sort of in there, then it's easier to gloss over. Like in cafe, it's like positive aspect, negative aspect, positive. And I told you guys the other day, 13 years to decode. Like, so you look and you're like, It says this is really good. So even though that's really bad, no, if it says deal breaker or divorce, I would just say if it's not working, like if you see deal breaker and divorce and you've been together 20 years and everything's kind of working fine and you guys have figured out how to work with the energies, that doesn't mean you should go file for divorce tomorrow. That's not what I'm saying. But if you see this and you've been dating for 4 years and he's not committing because you have Sun square Uranus and he's really unpredictable, or vice versa, she, maybe time to kind of go, maybe I should submit to divinetimingdatabase.org and meet someone I'm actually astrologically compatible with, and maybe they live 2 states away, but it might be, might, quick story. I told you guys my mom in her first and second marriage, their moons were not compatible. She gets in her third because Jupiter opposition Jupiter, which we need to do J-Lo and Ben Affleck's Synastry too. Keep forgetting that. They work out, but he lived in across the country when they got back together, and he moved all the way up here within months when they reunited, and she divorced her guy right away. So a lot of you will be stuck in these things where you're waiting for someone to get a divorce forever, or they live across the country and it's been 4 years. Like if it's the one for you, if you have your moons compatible and no malefics, it's gonna work. Like so yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is you're gonna have a better time just going and paying $15 submitting to divinetimingdatabase.org and waiting a month for someone that you could match with to match with you and spreading the word than you are going on 500 dates. Because I told you the astrology programmer I worked with ran himself against 600 charts and found one match. So good luck out there in the wild, you guys. I'm not doing great with it. It's beating me up. Wait, I will get it. Okay. We argued because he was getting tired of my astrology discussion. He refused to look for his birth time. Well, again, like I said, if you create a free private database at divinetimingdatabase.com, you don't need his birth time. You can hit noon in his birthplace. It's going to be a little more accurate than the /stars one. That one's great for a quick view, quickly to see if you have malefics. The other thing is that's kind of cool that you can do in the database is you can edit by clicking, once you put in his, and I made a little video on this, I could just tag it, but once you put in his birthplace as 12 and unknown, but you have the location, so the longitude and latitude are a little more exact, you can literally click his ID. It's kind of like, it'll be blue in your little table. So if you go in there and you enter yours and his will be right below yours, and you can edit it, and you could put 12:01 a.m. and you can run it that way, or you could even do 3. You could do, you could enter him 3 times, like AM, unknown, and PM, or you could just go in and edit the ID number, but you edit and you can do 12:01 a.m., noon, and 11:59 p.m. And sometimes you can confirm that his moon might be in the same sign that whole day, because the moon changes sign every approximately 2 to 3 days. So that means 2 out of 3 of you can 2 out of 3 of your partners, or let's say like 100 out of 365, 132 out of 365, you can confirm 100% their birth, their moon based on their birthplace and day, without needing to know, like their birth date and place, without needing to know their actual time. You won't know the exact degree the moon is in, but because it only matters if it's in friendly signs, it can work. Oh, his moon's in Capricorn and your moon is in Sagittarius. Okay, so do you know what degree his moon is in? Because they're neighboring signs. So if this is an out of sign conjunction, which I talk about a lot. So if his moon's in Capricorn at 5 degrees and your moon is in Sagittarius at 25 degrees, that's going to be really, really frustrating, because that's an out of sign at 5 degrees and your moon is in Sagittarius at 5 degrees. That's a semi-sextile, or even 4 or 6 degrees. And then you might actually be able to make it work. Yeah, I know. I saw that. Yeah, I scrolled back up, Dima. But so for you, the birth time would be a little more important. If you know that his moon is in Capricorn, then you probably do know his birth time and place, because you want, if you're in neighboring signs and it's out of sign conjunction, it's going to be the most frustrating thing in the world, because it feels like an in sign conjunction and you're just not simpatico. But if it's semi-sextile, there's like some sort of magic in it where it can actually work. That's what I've found. And I've only found 2 couples that didn't have moon compatibility and their moons were in neighboring signs, semi-sextile, that were married for a very long time thus far. Now, the more I get out there and put it out there, the more I am seeing some deviations. But for the most part, when it's not working, the moons aren't compatible and there's deal breakers and malefics. And when it is working, the moons are compatible. That doesn't mean any marriage is perfect, but definitely the couples that have like these beautiful Jupiter moon, even some of the couples that it's not working very well because they have challenging aspects. One second. They usually, if they've been married a decent amount of time, like a decade, they have, so it's like, if you have like Mars square Mars and you've lasted more than 10 years, you probably have some really beautiful Venus Jupiter contacts, or Venus moon. His moon is 28 degrees, my moon is at 27.8. Okay, so that's a semi-sextile, exact semi-sextile. So, and then what did you say about your relationship? So yes, you would be compatible, depending, but then you need to go look if there's any malefics, any malefic deal breakers. Because, I can't remember. Oh, man. It doesn't even necessarily mean that it is going to work, but if you've already been dating and you already have a connection, so you want, like I said, divinetimedatabase.com/stars. I would go in there and put both your birth dates in there. And since you have your birthplaces and times, go ahead and create a free private database so you could see even better the aspects. But then just scroll down to the interpretations and see if any of them pop up deal breaker or divorce aspect. And then there's ones that I labeled extremely challenging. So right now, those are the oppositions. So like Mars opposition Jupiter, Mars opposition Saturn. I think I labeled those extremely challenging. So you're still going to have a really hard time with those, especially with a semi-sextile. It's not going to be as solidifying as like a conjunction. So I told this, I've only dated one guy that has his moon in Virgo with me. And we were chatting like a month ago, and it's kind of like right outside of the moiety of 10 degrees. It's like 10.54 degrees or something, which some people say the moon's moiety could be like 12 or 15. Moiety just means like a wide orb, like because the sun and moon have a wider pole. It's kind of Vedic, I think, moiety, but it's just like a 10-degree orb is what I'm saying when I say moiety. And his is like 10.5 with me, but his moon is supportive of mine. And so he's the only guy I've ever dated where his moon's in the same sign as mine. But I did find, and I think I told you guys this, one of my roommates who I was really close to, the only guy I've ever lived with besides my ex-husband, I just figured out the other day that his moon is in Virgo as well. And that kind of surprised me because it's who you live well with. So when it comes to family and roommates as well, you know, moon compatibility is really important. You know, that's why a lot of kids, when their moons are not compatible with their parents, they're ready to get out of the house at about 10, 12 years old. But the kids that their moons are compatible with their parents, they might live with their parents and go through college and be just fine until they're 25 or 30, you know, and take advantage of that, you know, because they can chill with their parents like that. Okay, I'll see you later, Dima. Yeah, go check it out. So, oh, I kind of went on a rant there with the moons, but yeah, he was saying, so I was kind of chatting with him and I go, oh, you know, you're still the best astrology compatibility that I've dated. Not that I've found, but that I've dated. And he's like, oh, but would we match in divine, you know, would we match on your astrology dating app? And I'm like, actually, no, we wouldn't. And it's because of Mars opposition Saturn. But like I said, I have seen that. So if you're dating someone and it's already working for you, you know, but if it's your ex that you haven't been with in a year and you dated 4 or 5 years, I'd probably start to move on is usually my advice. You know, it ran its course there. That's that lesson you needed to learn. So why like keep hanging on to it? You know what I mean? But so anyways, yeah, that's sort of my go-to. So he was saying, you know, and it's like still, even though it didn't work out between me and him, I do feel like he had, you know, he also, I did get hurt when we broke up. You know, I was very heartbroken, but he didn't hurt me in the ways other men did. He actually kind of restored my trust in them because like when it was coming to an end, he was honest with me. You know, he didn't string me along, and he kind of, to his own detriment, because it's almost like he could have strung me along, and you could tell he was a little, I don't know if he's heartbroken, but you could tell he went through his own period of grief in the ending, but he was able to like be emotionally supportive to me and kind of make that sacrifice of being honest type of thing, and kind of go, okay, I'm not going to break this girl's heart and string her along. Yeah, she might be heartbroken right now, but he gave me like my dignity in it, and he gave me my, you know, emotionally, even though acutely it was painful for me to go through the separation, he was more looking out for my emotional longevity. So, you know, every relationship serves its purpose, yada yada. it doesn't mean you're meant to be. That's what you guys need to learn. So holding on, and I had to learn it too, like holding on for dear life to a train wreck, you know, I mean, you know, so that's what I'm, I'm trying to help you guys through. And yes, sometimes when we're heartbroken over someone, we don't always want to hear like, oh, there's a fish in the sea, but it's like, it could be a blessing in disguise. Like for a lot of you, when you have Saturn square Pluto, I'm like, this is a blessing in disguise that this person dumped you for their ex 2 years in, rather than you married them and had children with them, because this is the one I see in the worst custody battles. So, you know, sometimes the lesson is in letting go. And sometimes when we let go, you know, say you do have your moon semi-sex, go with that person. I know with me, with my ex-husband, it was like whenever I would get over him, you know, I'd grieve him for a month because we had Venus square Uranus, so he'd take off for 2 months. I grieve him for a month, and whenever I was like starting to date someone new that was treating me really well, and I was taking my time with it, and I wasn't like, you know, jumping in the sack or anything like that, then he would be back begging for me. You know, it was the time that I finally held out on him for a while that he wanted to get married right away. So it's like sometimes in letting go and getting our power back, establishing our boundaries, which is the hardest to do, I know. And it's like when that person has all the power over you. And, you know, oftentimes I tell you guys, like if you're waiting on someone's call and you're waiting on their call and you're waiting on their call, I'm like, you know, if you could just do the dishes and zone out and think about the flower outside the window, sometimes just being out, just, you know, that was a trick I learned. And it brought in a Mars square Jupiter relationship once, but it's like as soon as you can just quit thinking about all the past people and you can just clear your mind, and just anytime someone comes up, you just clear them of your mind and you just distract yourself on the small things, right? So I was telling my friend this the other day because they're going through a really hard time. Like in the law of attraction, it states the better it gets, the better it gets, and the worse it gets, the worse it gets. So when you're like, oh, this happened and that happened, and then no, you'll never guess, and it's always me. And I've been there too, you know, I'm like, nothing ever works out for me, da, da, da. But then as soon as you can go, oh, you know, the grass smells, that fresh cut grass smells so good, and oh, it's warm today, oh, I have warm running water, you know, for some of you, you know, you take that for granted, but my apartment in LA, we didn't have warm running water half the time when we had running water. And I was paying more than most people's mortgages for that place. So, you know what I mean? Like, definitely just try to appreciate the little things, and that will help you kind of start to, then the better it gets, the better it gets, right? Or listing positive aspects and gratitude. I know it's not easy, but I had looked at my gratitude journal and I couldn't believe it because I had had a pretty good summer and everything was going really well. And I couldn't believe it. I hadn't even done my positive aspects or my money exercise since April of last year. And I couldn't believe it. And I did it, and things have started to get better. I really try to do it as a daily practice. Usually it kind of equates to like a monthly thing, but to have a year go by was insane. But I'm having my North Node return right now. So there's a lot of working parts changing. So hopefully whatever I was writing in like there for the past decade will start to manifest as this Jupiter return happens. I'm going to do my money exercise, a video on that as well this week. I probably mentioned it in some video somewhere, but I've got what now? I've got, well, if I can read my handwriting, I've got 3 or 4 video ideas for you guys now for the week, and I'll probably pop on like every other day. I usually do give about a 30 minutes heads up when I'm about to pop on, but today I just popped on because I wanted to knock it out. I was only going to be on here for 30 minutes, and I see it's 50. So I'm going to go ahead and check out before it kicks me off and cuts off the end of my stream. But be sure to subscribe if you want to see when I pop on. And if you're watching in the playback or now, just write in the comments if there's anything you want to ask me about, any video ideas you would like me to talk on, any questions. I'm pretty good at responding to you guys in the comments. So I'm sending you all lots of love, blessings, and light as always. Ciao.